I'm Curtis Coffin-Piquel, the publisher of the Radiology Business Journal. I'm here with my colleague Cheryl Proval, and we're very proud and honored to unveil this year's results of our 100 largest radiology practice, and thank Intelerad for the partnership and Clifton Larson Allen for all the hard work that they did in helping us analyze the data. And with that, we'd like to unveil the top 100 largest radiology groups by FTE radiologists. Cheryl, thank you very much for doing such a great job in putting this together. We've got several data points, and the article is in this issue of the Radiology Business Journal, in which we kind of pull out some of the data and interesting sound bites about these practices and give you some information about some of the data points that we thought were the most salient. So again, thank you very much, Intelerad, for your sponsorship and partnership in helping bring this data to life, and to Clifton Larson Allen, and to Cheryl Proval, the editor of RBJ. Thank you very much. We're in the Intelerad booth, and we're just finishing up the unveiling of our 5th annual ranking of the largest radiology practices. This year it's the Radiology 100. And Elaine at Intelerad has asked us to comment on some trends and some things that we've seen, perhaps some things that were different this year. So Cheryl and I have agreed to kind of answer some questions that they put together for us. And Cheryl, I'll just introduce you and ask you to respond to the first question, which was essentially, what kind of trends did you see this year versus last year when assembling the largest radiology practice list? Anything kind of come to mind?
Well, I would say that the most telling and the most significant finding was that size has emerged this year as a clear advantage by several of the measures that we used. One being there was an increase in the number of hospital contracts for the largest practices, and that is the group that had more than 65 radiologists. And there was also an increase in the average number of procedures performed. Finally, there was an increase in revenue per FTE radiologist. Conversely, every other practice size experienced decreases in those three measures. So we think that is a significant finding.
A follow-on question would be, did you see anything that would indicate any increase or decrease in practice volume? It would seem to have peaked last year. Any indication that volume is increasing or decreasing or is flat?
Well, the data showed that the volumes are down in every practice size cohort except for the very largest. We can only speculate on the causes. We have seen in other data, we just published some Medicare data from the ACR, 10 years from 2000 to 2010, showing a pretty significant decline in volumes. So why? I'm not sure. It could be definitely the market is getting more competitive. We are seeing more, could be teleradiology, could be playing a factor, teleradiology companies, but clearly there is more competition for hospital contracts.
We were asked as a part of the questions, why is it that some practices seem to thrive in a hyper-competitive environment? I'm giving a lot of thought to the question about what separates those practices that seem to be significantly successful and those that are in some ways kind of moribund. What's happening with this as we've characterized the profession as sort of existing in a punishing environment. And I would say just this, that I think those practices that manage to thrive are those that have aligned within the organization, and everyone, clinical, operations, the physicians, the front office, scheduling, everybody within the organization understands the value proposition. understands what it is to compete, and understands what it is to differentiate yourself. And therefore, they have a pretty good understanding of the business principles that accompany running and managing a very large clinical practice. So I think that the largest 100, to a greater degree, have figured out that business proposition and how to compete in a very competitive environment. So I would just say that that's a part of it. The other question that was asked was what role and what can we take away regarding consolidation? I mean, you started off by saying bigger is obviously, in many respects, become better. I mean, so what do you see? In fact, that chart is probably going to change next year already. We know that there are some practices that have merged. What do you see in consolidation having an impact in the
Well, I
field?
think that, we're seeing practices get larger as a result of size being an advantage, more resources, better ability to invest in IT and to compete. In fact, we asked for the first time this year how much what percentage of their revenue practices are investing in IT. And we found it was very interesting because it seems to be about 3% across the board in all practice sizes. But of course, in a larger practice, that 3% represents a lot more dollars and a lot more money to invest.
I would say, one of the things that is characteristic of a maturing marketplace, which we are clearly in, is this idea of consolidation. There are 2 or 3 factors that are emblematic of a maturing marketplace, price points being one, barrier to entry, so on, but consolidation is truly, I think, one of the most emblematic, and we're seeing that consolidation continue. I think the deal environment that's on the horizon for 2013 is significant. We're going to see more practices merge, we're going to see hospital acquisitions, we're going to see all kinds of things, I think, play out that will affect the landscape and therefore create much larger organizations that will be able to weather the storm a little bit better. One of the other questions that was asked of us was this idea that there are, in corporate America, in the business world, radiology has been carved out of the employee benefits insurance models. And that may be true, and I don't know that I would characterize that as a trend, but I would just say conversely, I see several radiology groups and medical imaging organizations that have been able to connect directly with employer organizations and businesses and actually go out and acquire, carve out MRI or CT business. So I think that's kind of a double-edged sword. I think there's much more in terms of opportunity than loss in the employee benefits schematic. I think, wrapping it up, the question that we were asked, what are some of the most significant challenges facing radiology groups today? I've got a couple of that I've thought of, but maybe you could kind of kick it off. I mean, what are the challenges that you see faced with radiology groups of all sizes?
Well, I think starting the big challenge is dealing with reductions in reimbursement. I think we saw the effects of that in this year's survey. One measure that we look at is number of employees. And employees were down in all practice size groups, including the largest practices who did manage to increase their number of procedures performed. So I think that's having a serious effect, and that's a big challenge. How do you deal with reduced reimbursements? So I would say that's that's clearly one. I would say that there's kind of this perfect storm. Decreases in reimbursement, increased scrutiny from the payers, utilization controls, pay for performance models, bundle payment models. I mean, there are all kinds of things that have converged to create this perfect storm, which are going to be, enormous challenges for radiology groups. However, I think on the flip side, looking at those challenges and finding a way to kind of navigate and succeed
will make you sharper, will make you better, will make you better able to kind of meet those challenges head on and thrive. One of the things that I think is going to help practices do that is become more efficient, hence a focus on workflow,